Hi, everybody, and welcome to the show. This is The Strange Reality with Dave Emmons, where I bring guests that have a lot of interesting things to talk about and say. And on Facebook, you've been very good about following the shows and actually watching the shows. I appreciate that. The other platforms like Rumble, YouTube, I'm building there. That's those shows are building. YouTube is. But I got about 10 platforms I'm on. So if you jump on any of them, you'll see the shows. So anyway, which way? But Facebook is my home platform right now, I guess you could say, because of the close following I have. But they give me pretty good, decent runs of the mill, what you call it, for views and things of that nature. So I appreciate it. Thank you for following Strange Reality. My guest tonight, he hails from Canada, our neighbor and our friend, is Professor Sylvain Rochon. He's an award-winning visionary leader, 2024, and futurist, is one of the founders of the Alliance of the Extraterrestrial Diplomatic Contact, an organization whose goal is to build the world's first United Nations recognized embassy for extraterrestrial civilizations. And for all of us experiencers out there, that should be a win for us. Let's get this accomplished. With over 20 years in science, engineering, and technology, including impactful projects with universities globally. My lighting is not good here, Professor. So I turn it off because it reflects my glasses and everything. I have to keep those bright lights off, but in doing that, I sacrifice vision a little bit. Professor Rochon blends visionary thinking with practical applications. His work as a visionary futurist has brought him to start and operate projects that project humanity into the bright and beautiful future. Professor Rochon currently is a research fellow at Shinawatra. Is that how you say that? Shinawatra University, a partner at Heart Centered Consulting Firm, St. S.J. Performance, LLC, and CEO of the Human Data Intelligence Platform, Psychometrics, collaborator at the Institute of Future Studies and Development, Thailand, and acts as a futurist consultant in his professional life. He holds degrees in biochemistry, chemical engineering, and education. Well, welcome to the show, Professor Sylvain Rochon. Nice to get a hold of you and get some time to talk to you about this plan. I've heard about this plan before I even met. I think it's Daniel, your friend that works with you.
Yeah,
He
yeah,
made
he's the
contact.
co-founder of the Alliance, Daniel
Yes.
Turcotte. Yeah.
Yeah, and so how did you get started in all this, Professor Rochon?
Well, that's a pretty long story, actually. By the way, my name is French, so it's pronounced Sylvain Rochon.
Rochon.
Uh,
Okay. All right.
you wouldn't have known that because it's French, but it's that's fine. Um, wow, I got on this road 35 years ago. Like if you really go really back, so I was 15 years old or so, 13, 15 years old. Got a hold of a book written by a man that calls himself Rael. I guess he made an organization that's called the Raelian Movement. I read his book. I was 13 years old. My dad brought this, and he's a contactee. Like he got contacted by extraterrestrials in France, and the book was about his story of contact where he met extraterrestrials, and the extraterrestrials in that case gave him a mission, and they had two points to it. One was to spread the word that ETs have always been here, and they actually created humanity and life in laboratories, and like this like we're part of them. We're kind of like their children, just like in the old scriptures it
Right.
talks about God and beings from the sky and things like that. So that's part of it. And the other part was, well, we'll want to make official contact in an embassy, build an embassy for ETs, right? So that's in the and that story, like I read this when I was 13, but that story and that request was made in 1974.
Mm.
So that's the real starting point for me, like being aware that there was such a thing because I'm from like rural Canada, like library, like internet didn't exist, as you know, like nothing. So I just got reading this book in rural Canada, a community of 700 people. I was unaware of any of that stuff ever happening. I was amazed, like, well, there's some people that where these things happen to them. And I didn't really believe that guy at the time, but it resonated with me. It made sense because I already had a scientific mind and open-mindedness. It's like, well, from our history, I was reading every book I could put my hands on. It's from a history. That book that I read from him kind of connected a lot of mysteries in our ancestry. It's like the pyramids, all this ancient technology that we seem to be aware of from way, way back. Like it didn't make sense to me. It's like, where does that come from?
Yeah.
Like there must be some kind of reason for that. So it made a lot of sense to kind of made these connections initially, and that mission was in there about building the embassy. And my father became involved with the organization, like the movement itself, in spreading the word. I did also. That's where I met Daniel many, many years ago, Daniel Turcotte. He became the leader of that project within that organization, like about 15 years ago, to kind of get the embassy built. But the Raelian movement have been raising funds for that because of this since 1974. And so I was part of it. I was doing different things along the way, getting educated and whatnot. But I was part of the organization, so that mission was already always in vision of mine. But I was busy doing other things while Danielle was focused on that for
Mhm.
a while. And then in 2020. I had a feeling that, something else had to happen. Like there was kind of changes in the world. And I contacted Danielle. I said, Dan, like the ET Embassy project has to be a humanity project. It can't be the project of a single organization. So, and he agreed. So and Rael also agreed because he contacted us, like, what do you think? And so I said, yeah. So we created a completely separate organization in Canada called the Alliance of Extraterrestrial Diplomatic Contact. Me and Danielle as individuals, separate.
Mhm.
And we started contacting a bunch of organizations that are aligned
Yeah,
to kind of build a
Professor,
network.
but Professor Rochon, I want to go back to this Rael in
Sure.
France. I've heard of the story of Rael. Was that in a small town where ETs and UFOs were in this small mountain next to the town?
Yeah, it's like an old volcano. So it's a mountain, but with a hole
A
in,
dub. Yeah.
in middle, but a really ancient volcano.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a small town in France. That's right.
And somebody, I think, put together some kind of a uh, colony, or they got together some kind of a group that it was known for, I guess, being extraterrestrial. I can't think the name of the group. It was in France. It might have started from the Rael stories, but he may not have been the one. But it was some kind of a, I don't know, what would you call it, a commune that they started there, and they had these beliefs in ETs and things. That was in
I
France.
haven't heard of it, but it's possible. It's
Yeah,
definitely not something that Rael did, because otherwise I would probably have known of it.
yeah.
But yeah, there's a number of groups out there, small and big, that have this hunch, or they've had experiences like you've had,
Mhm.
right? And they feel compelled in some way. And since we built the alliance, in fact, we've been in contact with a lot of organizations, right? Because we're gathering forces, like everybody that wants to see this. And we realize how common this is. It's not super isolated. There's a lot of people that are channeling, have contact experiences, or organizing groups to talk about it.
Mhm.
It's not in a very public because it's still fringe. Right? It's less and less so, but it's still a fringe topic. So they do it quietly. But there's a lot of people, and even in the scientific community, because I'm part of the scientific community myself, there's more and more serious discussions about it, because it become more and more apparent that the galaxy is filled should be filled with intelligent life, and we wonder where are they
Have you
and
had
where's the
yeah,
evidence? You know, like
yeah.
that, all that stuff. Yeah.
Have you had Elon Musk or the Amazon guy? What was his name? They have
Jeff Bezos.
yes, Jeff. I keep forgetting his name, but they have these rockets, and of course they're into space and science. They might take an interest in your project, or not. Have they mentioned anything, Professor Rochon?
There are, I mean, well, what's this, Milnik? There's this Russian, like a billionaire that is very interested in this space. There's a bunch of celebrities that are fairly wealthy. Uh, Musk, Bezos, and these guys, I don't know. I haven't heard them talk explicitly about that, so I don't know what their opinions are. But you know, like from the Alliance perspective, since the objective is to make it a humanity project, we accept everybody.
Hmm.
Like we have two criterias really. It's like you have to want the an ET embassy to be built for beneficial reasons, and you need to be somewhat altruistic about it. So like it's for the benefit of humanity, some less ego. So we don't want to work with organizations that want to monetize as a priority.
Yeah. So you don't
This
want you don't want government agencies involved because they'll have stipulations and regulations, I guess.
Well, we'll talk to anybody, but we stick to our mission. And the mission, it's a for-purpose organization, right? It's like we want the embassy built, and we don't look at religion, creed, color. Like we believe as an organization and network that we are one. We're all connected with the universe and with everybody in it. And there's a strong feeling in the network that love must prevail as a feeling. Like we have to be giving and no ego, society transforming kind of ideology. And it seems to align with a lot of messages we hear from ETs through the contactees that this is who we should be,
Yeah.
who we should.
Consciousness, enlightenment, and it's and spirituality. Because
Yeah,
also understand that the ET is also spiritual, and they've been living here on this planet longer than we have. They're
yeah,
underground, under the ocean, and actually the government has admitted that. A couple of, I guess, Congress people have talked about that out of the committees that they have bases underneath the ocean, and they're called not extraterrestrials, they call them interdimensional beings. So
mm,
they said yes, they've seen the crashed the, I guess, craft, about 7 or 8 of them. They have whistleblowers, David Reich being one of the main guys, and he saw bodies. So they're talking about it, and they're supposed to have a disclosure. I think December 14th here in the U.S. a meeting about that. Uh, but we can talk about all we want, but I think what's going to happen, it's seeing is believing with most people. When I talk to them, it's seeing is believing. And this gets at the root, I guess, of your whole project is people knowing or thinking that there is a need, for an embassy and a place where they can come and talk. There's a need for that because for to have a need, they have to believe that they exist, and that's been part of my job,
yes.
is to try to get them to believe, these people that I have on guests, the scientists and everything that talk about this topic, and myself with all the experiences I've had and books and everything, but. It takes a while, I guess, to get people to believe. I guess that's part of your problem, right, Professor Rochon, is getting people to believe in your project.
Yeah, it's a chicken and egg type issue, or catch 22 if you would. Like you but let before we get to that, because that's an important question, but I have to preface this with something else so that it makes more sense. Um, we need to look at it logically, right? And maybe that's why I'm here because I'm a logic person,
Yeah.
right? I'm not an experiencer.
Hmm.
I've never seen anything. I'm not channeling. I don't. I'm unaware. Okay, I'm just hearing stories. But there's a need for an embassy strictly because we need to prepare. And by preparation, I don't mean prepare like a red carpet kind of preparation, because ET, like you said, ETs have always been here.
Mhm.
They don't need to be greeted here. They've always been here, just not in the public eye, like in an open, like very, very obvious way. It's been very sneaky, sporadic, non-mediatized, bad pictures, and so on and so on. The reason why we need an official place is that we need to protect ourselves from ourselves in the event. So people need to be to a point of understanding and readiness in their own minds so that they don't panic in the event of a real obvious contact,
Mhm.
right? Because there's going to be, people are going to panic to a certain degree unless they're ready. But also, our governments, being who they are, and there's different governments and different leaders all over the world, many will want to have dibs at the negotiating table, at the discussion table. They'll want to have access to technology and information that in a way that other countries won't. They'll be jockeying for power,
Yeah.
right? This is the nature of our still many of our governments.
Mhm.
And that creates conflicts between us, not the civilians, but at the higher level.
Right.
So having an official embassy means that it is an embassy that is managed by the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Mission. This is the official document that sets the rules and laws among all nations about how diplomacies are run, who has rights, what are the rights about, extraterritoriality. Like as you probably known, the embassies and the land they're on belong to the nation that is supposed to inhabit it.
Yes.
So in ET embassy, a host nation, according to the law, international law, a host nation must declare this land now belongs to ETs. The building there is an official embassy. We declare it on our land. It becomes the embassy of the ETs according to the Vienna Convention. They declare that officially. Other nations, if they follow the rule that they've signed in the Vienna Convention, they would normally accept, okay, I understand. This is an official embassy. Now everybody knows what rules are being played by, right? It also means that the ETs that come here have diplomatic immunity. You've heard that before, right?
Right.
In movies and whatever. That means they cannot be prosecuted by any law because they are representing another nation that has a different set of laws. They are prosecuted according to their own law, which we don't know,
Oh, right.
right?
That's true.
So that creates that area. That's why the Vienna Convention was so transformative in 1961. It creates a universal set of laws that everybody agrees on how to behave. And so when the ETs come, they are immune to our own laws. They set the rules, and everybody knows between nations that they are not in control of the laws and the rules. They are guests in somebody else's land. That's important. Now, back to your question. To get there, to get a nation to do that, requires the population to be to a certain level of acceptance and desire to have that built. Otherwise, politicians don't want to stick their neck out because that's an official act that has to be declared internationally. It's not in secret. People need to know. It's going to be a building that's declared embassy for ETs, like
Yeah.
written in bold letters. It has to be public by law. So there's work to bring disclosure and other kind of efforts brings the population up to a point of acceptance, making politicians ready under certain circumstances to actually make that move to declare we want to build an embassy. And then we can come in. We have raised through the network $50 million in funds to kick off the building of the embassy. So it's not a financial risk from the host nation. So that makes it easier. And we bring a number of following through the network that want this to be built. That's political numbers. That helps. That's what we build as an alliance. And And then, along with the host nation and our own efforts, developers will come in because if there's money, there's tourism, there's commerce. developers come in, they can pre-sell condos, all that jam around the embassy, right? People are going to be making money. It becomes a touristic site. It creates jobs, which makes the government there look good, and people are more accepting of the embassy because it's beneficial to them personally, bringing economic boon to the area. It all kind of comes and cascades from that.
Yeah, but you don't
And
want to go as
people,
far as people being so curious that they come there and they think it's a zoo. You know, you don't want it to be you want it to be, you know, an ET land and get along with
yeah.
each other. Not that they're to be looked at or to be, you know, people with curiosity. You want them to accept these extraterrestrials and not think of them as, you know, animals locked up in a zoo. They're not locked up because they're going to
Oh,
be
sure.
they're going to be
Well,
real.
mind you, I could share plans of the embassy. Like you see the embassy itself there, and it's meant to be in a very secluded area, in a 2 by 2 kilometer. So it's 1.6 miles by 166.6 miles, right? Enclosure with a large fence around it because you don't want to have people kind of coming up to the building,
Mhm.
right? It has to be a secure area for exactly the same reason. It needs to be safe and secure for all sorts of reasons. But around it, there's going to be a small village to support that needs to exist to support the embassy, and that's where the tourism, a duplicate embassy would be built outside, like outside the grounds, where people can visit and see what it looks like inside. People won't go into the embassy, just like any other embassy. You don't go there for visits, right? So any tourists that come with cameras and video cams would be doing that outside of that big fence, right? That would be reserved for diplomatic encounters and so on inside the embassy. So we've got that covered.
Okay. Do you have a team
Uh,
of researchers, Professor Rochon? Do you have researchers and scientists who are ready to work with the extraterrestrials once they get there? And are you going to accept back engineering or technology that they might grant you? Uh,
well, of course, everybody wants that.
yeah.
But well, here's the reality of things. Yes, we on our website you can even see like there is I don't know how many, maybe between 200 and 300 scientists have signed up in support, in direct support of the embassy project on our website. You can scroll down into the support network and you'll see those. And there's even like one of the newer members of the alliance is SETC, which is an organization of scientists for that are promoting the contact with ET. So there's a number of scientists in all sorts of fields that are ready to go, like
Have you heard
to
of Have you
support
heard of
and get involved.
Have you heard of Dr. Federico Vidal in IMEX? IMIX.
Yes, I'm in contact with them. Actually, I made a talk there a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah,
In
I
IMAX. Yeah,
thought that's where I saw you because I'm a member of IMEX. I work.
there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
So yeah, Federico, like we've been talking. I'm getting involved with his organization because I think they're doing a good thing on a professional level, actually.
and he's a very nice guy.
Um,
He's a very nice guy.
yeah, definitely a very very cool project. And here's the thing about the technology. Like we, if you think about scientists and engineers, right, which is also a type of science. Hey, if technology specs or any information is provided, we're gonna pour through that like crazy. However, I doubt this will happen. I seriously doubt. Because ETs that have been watching us have been purposefully preventing their technology, any kind of a serious technology to fall into our hands,
Right.
because that would be dangerous.
Mhm.
Because we know the history of that. It's been explained in science fiction movies aplenty. It's a problem when too advanced technology is in the hand of people. Especially in a way we don't understand, we basically a subgroup of humans make that into a weapon,
Yes,
typically.
that's what the ETs
And
know that half of us here will be battling against the other half, and we haven't we haven't tamed down our human nature for war and that type of thing is still
mm,
here, and they know that. So I guess that's where the consciousness comes in with everybody.
yeah,
Uh, what's going to happen? I'm just going to interject this for with the three AI atlas. Okay, uh,
sure.
One of that is an ET ship, and I don't know if I can get your impression of that, if it is or not. But one of that's a ship, and they're all coming down here way before your embassy building and plot is finished. Professor Rochon, what happens then? You you do some.
It's going to be interesting for if that happens. I've been watching this for a long time. Of course, I follow a lot Dr. Avi Loeb, who
Yeah,
has a non-mainstream opinion about 3i Atlas. Like he's thinking is maybe 40% chance it's technological. It's not a comet or something else. The rest of the scientists are saying it's an extrasolar comet. It's just we haven't seen many of these extrasolar objects before, so maybe it's just very odd. By I'm with Avi Loeb. As a scientist, I can't discount just because something we don't that looks weird doesn't necessarily mean extraterrestrial or technological. But it certainly looks. It has many weird behaviors
yeah,
through AI Atlas that makes it possibly a technological phenomenon. Um, and if it is, it's definitely if it is technological, it's probably not a mystery that it has its trajectory
yeah.
and it's
Absolutely.
passing close
Yeah,
to Earth. And so if that is so, one would expect either it's a flyby and nothing's going to happen. It's just going to fly by and observe and take snapshots, whatever, right? Or send probes over. I mean, ETs that have technologies to do this, like I was telling some people, ETs have been visiting for a long time. Um, they were extremely subtle, and they know our level of technology, and they know how to avoid detection. 3i Atlas was obviously detected. It's moving fast, but we're tracking it for weeks.
yeah.
So if it's an ET civilization that sent this, they were they wanted us to track it and to find it and to see it and to observe it, measure it,
And
everything.
the latest thing I've been hearing on the internet, you can't believe 90% of what you see on the internet, but they
Yeah.
said it took a turn for Earth. It's coming our way now. And it was heading towards Jupiter way, and they thought it was going to go out of our solar system and back into the interstellar travel, which it came. But somebody's saying that it took a turn, and it's coming towards Earth now. And if
It's
that's not
not.
true, I don't think that's
No.
uh,
No, it's not. The measurements are showing it going to Jupiter. It did change trajectory. It made a course correction at perihelion, which is the closest to the sun. Again, it's confusing because it's possible that it was a natural occurrence because of the heat of the sun when it got closest. It's very, very weird the way it happened. It's way more propulsion that you'd expect, and it's extremely unusual, let's call it. I think it's technological, but that's a guess. It's not confirmed. Like the measurements are not definitive. Some of my contactee friends that are part of the alliance are saying definitely it's a civilization that's doing a flyby.
it could be doing
And
a flyby. That's my thoughts too, and not a landing, but a flyby because we're not ready for that yet. And you don't have
no.
you don't have your building done yet. So
Well, that's the thing, right? Like you asked the right question. Like, what if they're shedding off drones, like small drones that we can't see, right? And they're coming here and they're gonna make an appearance. Well, there's a couple of scenarios. Either those drones, whatever they may be, are going to be doing more UAP stuff, more of the usual.
Mhm.
So, we're going to see things here and there, but we won't really see them coming into the atmosphere necessarily. So we're just going to have appearances. So that's going to be inconclusive. Same things as we've seen for years and years and years is in the 40s, right? More UAPs in the sky that could be from that or just other visitations. Or it could be extremely evident. Like NASA tracks objects, like Independence Day. I know like that's a bad movie, But you had
It was
these
entertaining.
objects that shed off the main object, and they are obviously they're tracked into the atmosphere. That scenario, that's going to cause a lot of panic. And the reason why we're building the embassy is to prepare humanity to avoid this kind of panic and to avoid and to have agreements between nations not to fight each other for access and so on. So it would be premature to humanity's preparation. Now, what I heard, again, this is from my network because I'm not a contactee. I'm just hearing things from people that tell me things, right? That say they are in contact with ETs. That this is civilization that is not supposed to make contact. And that civilization has been in discussion with others from the Galactic Federation
Right.
that they shouldn't make contact and don't send things over. They're not ready yet. That's what I heard.
Hmm.
As a scientist, I have to say this because I'm not the one hearing these messages. It's a third-party information. Um, so I can just imagine this. It makes sense to me because of what I just said before. It's obvious if it is technological and intentional, they wanted us to spot them and to track them.
What about these drones? I saw where a lady last night on the internet. She looked like she was really, true to what she was saying.
Mm-hmm.
She's saying that the drones and the orbs are coming back again, like they did last December. We had the East Coast and even Canada and all over the world. We had all these drones, these orbs,
Mm-hmm.
and these objects that they said that were you know the FAA approved of them. They weren't enemy, but they also shut down their air bases when these drones come by. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the weird part about what some of the scientists said. Why did the government shut down two Air Force bases in New York when the drones come near them? Because they had no defense against them, and they must have been unknown because they're saying that they were known, not known. And I don't buy that. But now I hear they're coming back. Could that be part of the? I guess if we were going to spy on somebody, we'd send in drones too. I mean, that's we use them quite a bit, and
Yeah, we
we
do that ourselves. Yeah.
and 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 these interstellar ships that are coming in, that'd probably be the first thing they would do. They would pop them in through a portal or whatever they come through, and just boost them here, and then they spy on us for a while, like the sphere that I ran into 2 months ago. That could
Mm-hmm.
have been something that's looking over a lot of different things. And I understand in Wyoming and Montana, there's a lot of military underground bases there, and also, nuclear sites there. So
Sure.
that's could be the reason why they're starting to come that part of the of our country. But in Canada too, they've had some things there. What do you think about all these drones that are flying? And they could start again. This I don't know why they start on December and they end on March somewhere like that. Could be some timing or something. Professor Rochon, what do you think about it?
Well, two things. One is statements I've read from the American military in this case, because that's where I get a lot of information from. When they see UAPs all the time, right? Especially in the Navy over water, it's a common occurrence. They see things they can't explain. They document them. It's kind of a normal procedure. So in the case of bases and whatnot, when they see blips on their radar, they identify them. It's not Russian, it's not Chinese, blah blah blah, and they say, okay, the behavior is a UAP. They basically, since a long time, they declare them as being non-hostile
Mhm.
UAPs. And they kind of just move on with their day after recording the events.
Right.
And to me, like I know it's normalized in the middle. The way they talk about it, like it's normal procedure now, right? Like they just like keep documents and then they move on because there's nothing they can do anyway.
Yeah.
They observe if they can. Sometimes they can fly near. They don't shoot them. Generally
Well,
speaking,
there was
they
a
just leave them alone because they're not threatening.
uh, there was a
Yeah.
uh, there was a video of actual video of a military, I guess, jet uh, firing a Hellfire missile, at one of these orbs or ETs, and apparently you can see it in the film that it just kind of deflects. It just throws it back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was evaluated and debunked as not an ET. That was actually a behavior of a balloon that got
Oh,
shot.
really?
Yeah, yeah. Because because the Hellfire did not blow up, right? It just kind of like and then there's pieces and then it became deformed, kind of like
Yeah.
the balloon was floating at airspeed, the speed of the wind. And if you shoot a balloon, it's just gonna punch a hole in it and it's gonna wobble. And that's exactly what you saw. It looks like an orb because from balloons look like that. So that was a balloon in this case, and that's why it behaved like that. And the military may have tried to shoot it down because sometimes balloons are spy balloons.
Yeah, like the two that you had coming over Canada, and then they come
Mhm.
down into the U.S. And they said this. They said there was a UAP that was shot down over Canada and American border by an F-22, and
Mhm.
they said one of them was shot down on the west coast of Canada, and they said that fell into a lot of mud and water and stuff like that, and they couldn't find it. But the other one, they might have retrieved parts of it, but uh, they come close to saying it was actually a UFO or a UAP, and it wasn't some weather balloon or anything, Professor.
Well, well, here's the thing. Here's the thing, Dave. Like, UAP means unidentified,
Right.
right? Or UFO is unexplained, whatever. So everything you see in the sky that you don't know, like you call them UAPs, and then you try to figure out what it is, and at some point, sometimes it's no longer a UAP because you can declare what it is. It's a weather balloon. It's a flying saucer from or
That's what we used to
or
call it.
it's a Russian spy satellite, whatever, right? You figure it out. So just having a UAP doesn't mean anything. Doesn't mean aliens, right? Because sometimes they are actually man-made things. We just don't know right away, and we discover they are. And in some cases, like you saw in the disclosure document, I forget the name of the document, but it was in the States a few years ago, where there was declaration by the oh my gosh, Arrow, I think, sent out a report of 114 events with UAPs, and 113 of them remained unexplained. So they remained UAPs,
Mhm.
right? So you still can't say it's definitely ET, but we still don't know what those objects were. And that's fine. Like what Avi Loeb is doing with the Galileo project, he's setting up equipment to look at UAPs and determine whether or not they are extraterrestrial. Because you can do the analysis with good equipment to determine it was this built on Earth with Earth materials or elsewhere. Things like that. So that's useful scientifically. Now, going back to your drone question, because that was the second part of it. Uh, Civilizations that are thousands of years older than ours have technology where they can observe us without being obvious, without seeing orbs or things like that, right? We can do that with satellites. You don't know the satellites are there, but they
Yeah.
can take pictures of your of what you have in your tea.
Yeah.
Okay. So ETs that are like thousands of years more advanced don't they have better technology than that. So what we see as, beings or objects in the sky around us, my theory is like this is intentionally being obvious and creating discussions or doing impact, allowing people to see them because you've had some experiences. If you didn't see anything and you just felt queasy
Hmm.
because you had some feelings, you
Yes.
just felt queasy, you would not make the connection.
Hmm.
You're just like, okay, I feel sick or something. Because they don't need to be in the sky to observe you.
No, that's what I told my brother. I told him, I said, why don't you let me?
Mm.
He's been filming a lot of orbs that's over this our area, Southern Illinois, and
Yeah.
he's filmed a lot of them, and he's got them he bought a good camera to do this with, and he wants me to come over and watch some of these things. And I told him, I said, why don't you give me a couple of those videos? I'll put them on the internet. he said, "Oh no, I don't want the men in black following me around." I said, "Oh, they're not going to follow you around." I said, "People got these pictures up all the time now." I said,
Yeah.
it's almost routine that people are presenting these things on the internet and also showing the government, and I'm sure the government sees everything that we're doing. You say ETs do, but the government does too. They know we're
Oh
doing.
yeah.
Yeah, they
Oh
know.
yeah. How
Yeah,
many satellites do they have up in orbit watching us? I
yeah,
mean, see that's my point. Like when we're seeing something, these are civilizations, all of them, that are so advanced that if they don't want us to see anything, we don't see anything. Forget about it. They can appear in a spacecraft in your backyard, you won't even notice. They just appear there,
yeah.
right? They do show things to us and do things to us to create an effect within us, not because they have to, it's because it's part of a plan. It has to be, right? So they're preparing us in some way. At least that's my hypothesis on
I
this.
believe so too, Professor. Yes.
They, they're doing that purpose. There's Three-Eye Atlas, same thing. If it is technological, it's coming. Yeah, it's fast, but they don't have to do that to come here.
Yeah.
I
Yeah. They.
mean, this thing is massive.
Mhm.
Like they don't need a like why this is has a nucleus about 7 kilometers. So like what was that like 5 miles in diameter?
Mhm.
Like if you want to probe, like if we want to probe another solar system, where we have plans to actually do that, where we're going to send cubes with them as solar sails.
Mhm.
These cubes are like a foot across. You send that to pro like the cameras are fine. You don't need that like 7 mile 5 mile radius thing. They're doing that to show us like it's on purpose. It's a show. They don't need to do that to observe us. They're doing that for us to create the discussions, to have a disclosure movement, to prepare with each other, to have snapshots to show on the media. Oh, this is possible. This was seen in the sky. All this stuff. Otherwise, we wouldn't have the conversations at all
Mhm.
if they were like just doing what they're doing. They can observe us in all sorts of ways without being obvious.
Yeah, I told
And
my
if there's
brother.
some crash, it's an intentional crash. They didn't get shot down. This is a drone that got shot down on purpose that doesn't have meaningful technology that would harm us.
You don't
They're
think
doing it on purpose.
he said the radar used radar? The military used radar to bring these craft down. Like in Roswell, their radar units messed up their controls and brought them down, and they have crashed. You think these are intentional crashes, Professor Ocean?
Oh, I think, I mean, there's an off chance that, there's a technology error and crash or something like that. But look, I mean, these are so like this, they've been around. They were able to come here from another solar system thousands of years ago, for most of them, for the most part, right?
Mm.
They can sit in their lazy boys on their own planet and watch what you have for tea.
Yeah, I believe that.
And without having a balloon around or things like that. They can do that from over there. Like the technology is so much more advanced than us, than ours. We can't even imagine. When we see little like weird creatures around, these are most likely not them risking their own bodies and lives. These are biological drones.
Yeah,
In 20 years from now, we can build these biological drones ourselves with our own technology because we're getting that in that case in that advance in bioengineering. They're 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 playing with us to create stories so that also has stories to prepare us for something way different from what we see on Earth here. That's what I think
yeah,
because that's the only thing that makes sense. Like they wouldn't risk their own bodies
yeah.
in within humanity because that would be and they don't need to.
There's an ounce of truth
But
in some of these movies, Professor Rochon. There's like Star Wars and the Third Kind. There's an ounce of
yeah.
truth in there because Spielberg and these other producers they rub elbows with big shots. The CIA, the government, whatever, and they're probably told little tidbits. And so they go ahead and do this. And what you're seeing is probably what's actually real, like the Third Kind movie with Richard Dreyfuss.
Mhm.
That was a sensational movie. But like I said, I told my brother, I said, when you're taking pictures of them way up there, they know you're taking pictures. Just like that sphere knew I was taking pictures. Apparently, it didn't like it, so I don't know. But it may have been something else. But well, I told my brother, I said, no, the men in black ain't gonna follow you. I said, I think those days could be over. That they're following people or threatening people anymore. I think those were in the early days back in the.
No, that's over.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there was military was trying to cover up in the US a lot of that stuff, and there was a time when they wanted people to be quiet. Now I think the military, like I said, for a lot of the observations, it's kind of rote and routine. It's part of the discussions. There's a lot of ex-military members that can talk about what they've seen on ships and radars and whatnot. No, we're past that. I don't think. I know there's stories about official encounters with leaders, Eisenhower, whoever else. I'm not like there's a story of I was reading about Valiant Thor the other day, for example,
Mhm.
right? That story. I don't buy into that. Could be, but it seems too fantastical to me to have like it's. But why not at the same time? Right now, I'm just focusing on today, right? Where are we today? Not in
Val-
the 60s.
Valiant Thor rings a bell for me. I was studying and looking at some of these old time reels back in the 40s and everything, and there was three people sitting in the seats, and the guy that they say was Valiant Thor was actually working for the BBC news group, and he was there, I guess, listening to Franklin Delano Roosevelt out in the Rose Garden or whatever. But his sister and his brother was there too, or something. But I told people, I said, that's not the Valiant Thor that you're seeing pictured. I saw him as a BBC reporter. Now I can't explain that, but that's if you look at it, you'll see the same thing that he was in the audience listening to Roosevelt
Yeah.
report. So I don't know, Professor Rochon, about that story or other stories that could be debunked. I know whenever I see something, I have to sit there and think, did I really see it? What's really going on? Another question I
Yeah.
wanted to ask you: since the governments are pretty, they like to hold on to power and control things. You talk about signing an MOU between the host and I guess the uh, Raelian uh, movement, and you talk about having these pacts. Do you think the government wanting power are going to come in and try to regulate you if you get this thing built and started?
Sure. Yeah. Well, yes, this is a recent development, which is what brought me to being interviewed quite a bit. So the Raelian Movement is the primary um, fundraiser for the ET Embassy Pro. So they have access to that $50 million. They work with us in alliance, right? They're a part of the network, so we have access to the same. We're working on the same project basically. So they're the ones that signed this memorandum of collaboration officially with a nation that is undisclosed so far, of moving towards building the ET embassy. Now, this would become the host nation if they choose to officially declare, like I mentioned before. So technically, what happens in a normal embassy, right? It's usually a nation with another nation. So nation A says, okay, nation B, you may have this land within my land that belongs to you now. So nation B has partial land inside the boundaries of nation A. That's how it works. And then the embassy inside belongs to nation B, understandably. So because these are nations, like you step into the ambassador in the land of the embassy, right? You are in Nigeria, you are in the US, like you become that's part of the other person's land now. So that's very, very well defined.
Mhm.
In the case of an ET embassy, the land would become to an ET would belong to an ET civilization that we don't know. We don't know the rules of them, and they're not there physically, at least as far as we can tell. They're looking, but they're not visually there to manage the property, right? So I'm sure the host nation will have a bunch of condition and will try to move more of their influence than usual. because the other host nation is not physically there, at least in a direct way, to kind of push back, right? So we'll be doing that, but we're not a nation with an army.
Yeah. Now, Professor Rochon, could you get the Canadian Parliament and the Premier, could you get them to rule on a law that will help cover you and what you're doing?
Well, here's the thing. Part of the process will be to implement what's called an optional protocol to the Vienna Convention. This is a tool designed in agreement with the nations of the Vienna Convention that sets additional rules for this special circumstance. This is important because this is different than just another nation on Earth. There's different parameters to it. So an optional protocol adds to the Vienna Convention different terms that would be particular to this. This protocol can be ratified by any number of nations that are signatory to the Vienna Convention,
Okay.
and especially the host nation. So the extra terms would be defined in that document and also visible to the rest of the world. So within that, we'll see what's shaped up because that's going to be the host nation would declare, or another nation, any nation can declare a convention. Everybody can come and discuss this.
Hmm.
So that's how we're going to be able to see the nudging
Right.
and the jockeying and what would be the extra terms associated with this special circumstances because this is not an earthly nation and so on. So we'll be privy to those documents. It's going to be visible to the population and media and so on. And we'll see what the requests will be from the host. And by the way, like we're going to be, if a host nation is unreasonable, we have a number of other host nations that haven't signed an MOU yet, but they're interested. Okay. So if country A makes a declaration and starts discussing and the terms are inappropriate from our perspective, another nation wants to do it, we're going to move to the other nation. It's like, okay, if you're more reasonable, let's do it with you.
Oh,
We're
okay.
going to bring the funds there because we want to represent humanity, not the politicians,
Hmm.
the people,
You just have to have
universally.
a certain amount of continuity between governments and the groups that you're talking about in order to make it all peaceful and make it what you want it,
Right.
ground.
And the other comment I can make on this, like once things get started, especially if there's a mention of a ET embassy, blah blah. Let's say it's the US. The US is interested to have dibs, right? They can decide to, without connecting with us at all, they can decide to put down funds, set aside extraterritoriality, declare it, do that on their own.
Hmm.
They don't need us. Nations can do that on their own. We're not special, right? We're trying to make it happen
Yeah.
officially so that it's proper for an ET. And if hopefully the collective alliance and humanity will be consulted. But a nation state can decide to build an ET embassy on their own and finance it and build it and make all sorts of declaration with the UN and whatever by themselves. And that would be fine as long as it's built for that purpose in this way. ETs will see it as humanity being ready and a place of understanding and collaboration between nations that will be safe for them to visit between us, right? And that'll be okay. And then once there's one embassy, likely there's going to be others. Others will just jump in and want to have their own embassy, especially if there's a first contact. You can imagine every nation is going to want to have an embassy
Yeah.
on their land because they'll want to have visitations there too.
Yeah. What if the ETs want to pick their own plot of land out when they come down, Professor Ocean? What happens then if they want to select?
Well, here's the discussion hypothesis. Building the embassy in such a way requires a lot of work and understanding, political jockeying, announcements, and all that stuff. That's to prepare us for ourselves. They have never needed a building to have contact with us.
Yeah. Right.
So this is on an exercise for us between us to be ready between us. They don't need that. They'll respect us, and if we build the embassy, they'll come there because out of respect, this is the space. And it's also will be less freaky if they go into the building. I made a joke the other day. know, they'll be very respectful to kind of like not make us panic. So they may come in with suits and ties and briefcases and walk down and sit in the chair. What you'd expect a diplomat do. They
Right.
probably won't come in suits and ties, but
The
they'll
shaping
be
of
as
people.
expected as possible so that we understand what's happening.
Mhm.
And it's kind of a protocol that we get. Like it's going to be a room, there's chairs, there's going to be a discussion. They'll do that our way.
Right.
After that first meeting, I presume people will calm down and kind of, okay, this is real, blah, blah, blah. They can, like you said, they can say, okay, now here's our embassy. And they build it within a night in a certain place somewhere. Or maybe they're going to visit us in all of our homes simultaneously and have discussions with everybody. They can do anything. They're way more advanced than we are.
Yeah, that's for sure. And they've been millions of years ahead of us, and they're the ones who made. I always, that song you hear, "Who made who." These they say there's about five different ET races that could have, I guess, had some DNA intervention in developing us humans. So we have to look at that too. And we also know that history isn't what we think it is. There's been
Mm.
a lot of wrong history, and you're getting to divisions. We have so much in divisiveness nowadays, politically, socially, and economically, with all the countries. And there's a lot of unsettled people. And I'm sure the ETs are looking at this and thinking, this may not be a good time to come down. Is that what you might be thinking, Professor?
I think despite the troubles we're having, things have never been better for humanity. It's always it's getting better. Social media makes things look terrible,
Yes.
increasingly terrible, because that's how the social media company make money, and even mainstream media is jockeying for attention, and drama and crisis brings us to the feeds. But if you look at the actual statistics of people's lives and wellness, everything's getting better all the time.
Yeah.
It's just no people. Most people aren't aware of how we are. We are close to being ready because you have to imagine. We don't need everybody to be ready, like 100% of the population, because that's impossible. Everything's on the bell curve, right? There's always edges that,
Yeah.
like ET can come tomorrow, for example, and the edges of that bell curve, like the people will get accustomed to it right now pretty quickly, like the general population. Because there's now talking about ETs and visitations and possibility of life or another planet is dining room table talk now.
Yes, it is.
When 5, 10 years ago it was not,
Yeah.
right? But you have the extreme edges of the population, some kind of the exceptions that will, some of them will never, they'll say it's all fake, and they'll maintain that to their grave, even if they have ETs in front of them,
True.
right?
I've seen
And
people.
you have another edge of the population that will make it a religion. Oh, ETs are gods, and they'll start venerating and becoming, extreme in a different way, like too much of
We
the other side.
if we look at our history, we'll know better not to repeat that.
Yeah, but
Down.
these are the edges. These are because you don't need 100% acceptance. You need kind of a decent majority. And we're close to that. Like you have conversations around you about ETs, and it's like people are not saying you're crazy anymore. They're saying they're going to have an opinion about it.
Right.
You can have a discussion.
Yeah. Can you imagine
So that's the level of readiness we need.
we're past the hour already, Professor Rochon, and I just want you to tell people where they can contact you or your organization, and tell us a little bit how they can reach out to you.
Right. If you want to reach out to the Alliance, you go to the website Alliance, not the number four, et.org. So Alliance, number four, et.org. And from there, you got all the information about the protocols, the embassy. We have a kind of a membership program of some kind where you can volunteer and help out in different ways. and resources and press releases that are official, including the latest memorandum of collaboration, are in the news section, so you can follow there.
Mhm.
And our social media are listed there as well. So that's the way.
I'll do that. I'll put that in the narrative whenever I post this video. I want to
Excellent.
thank you, Professor. I guess let me see if I can get this name correctly. Sylvain Rochon. Is this
That's right.
Rochon? Professor Sylvain Rochon. And you've been listening to Dave Emmons and the Strange Reality Show. Thank you very much. And this is a very unique topic and something that we all need to think about actually because things are getting closer, just like the professor said. And we want to thank you all and thank you, Professor Rochon, for doing the show. And I hope everybody enjoys it. Good night, everybody.